Issues facing Tennesseans today. From 10 News, this is Inside Tennessee.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John Becker. The next chapter begins for Knox County under the same leadership of a man who has steered the political ship for the past 4 years. Earlier this month, Knox County Mayor Tim Burchett took the oath for his second and final 4-year terms, given the term limits in place. We are pleased to have the mayor in studio this morning. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let me introduce our panel. We'll get to questions on the end there. Don Bosch, a Democrat and a lawyer, runs his own firm.
Good morning, John.
Good morning. Next to him, Mike Cohen, who's a Republican, runs his own consulting and PR firm.
Hey, JB.
Howdy. And Mike Danilla, investigative reporter, here with us as well.
Morning.
Good morning. Mayor, in your remarks, assuming this second 4 years, you said the last 4 have been good. What's kept them from being great?
Well, I'd never say I've done anything great, and I've always given my grade as C. There's always room for improvement. People, I'm great, and then they just kind of fall back on it. And I've told my folks, I've said we've done a good job, but, people want their pizzas in 30 minutes or less, and that's about the attention span of the average citizen, me included. And so we just got to keep striving for more.
You talked about some other accomplishment, debt, reducing it being one of them. Explain to folks what we've seen in the last 4 years and then what you see as whether that's going to be a trend that continues in the next 4.
It is going to continue. I set the mark very high on what I'd like to, and we didn't save as much. But if you compare a community our size to any other county across this country, from California, we throw out Detroit, Michigan, okay, that everybody always uses that example. They're gone. But if you compare it to any other communities our size, we've reduced debt about $67 million at this point. We're on track to do a whole lot more. We've given raises, we've given some bonuses, and we haven't had mass layoffs. We have not had a tax increase. It's because we've done what we said we were going to do, and it's wise fiscal management. We've got a great team. I wished I could take all of the credit for it, and I cannot. The only thing I've done is hired some good people in place. Chris Caldwell and the finance team do an excellent job. I go by there every chance I get just to thank them for the work they do. And we spoke with a bonding agency earlier this week, and I think we're on track to another favorable rating. So and the bond rating, to let people know, it's just like they really just set your interest rate. If we have to go out and borrow money like you would for your home or something, or an automobile, we have a ridiculously low interest rate. Something you have not wanted to do. Let me ask you, and then we'll get our panel in here. But do you foresee any reason to raise taxes in the next 4 years? No, I don't. I believe I have enough political capital and the ability to do that if we need to, but we don't. We've increased funding. It's over $40 million towards education since we took office. We've made government much more efficient. I think the public is very satisfied with what we're doing. So no, I don't see any need for it. But if we have some economic downturn, emergency, or something like that, we could do that. But we also have a surplus that's more than adequate.
Tim, you talk about efficiencies in government, and I think certainly most, irrespective of political stripe, would say that you've been very efficient as mayor. But there's been sort of this interesting slide towards I call it the back door of consolidation between city and county, one that I frankly approve of. And I'm curious to what you see over the next term, your next 4 years, right, as areas of government that between city and county will consolidate in order to be more effective for the citizens and frankly save money for both the county and the city.
I think we need to show the public that we're going to stick to our word on that, Don. I thank you for bringing that up, because that is very important. I mean, this county and this city, we can't even send our property taxes out in the same envelope. Just something that simple. And I've talked to Mayor O'Hara, and I've said publicly, it is really, the only reason we don't have more consolidated services is because of fiefdoms. When they enacted the term limits, which you all remember, and I remember they were interviewing elected officials, and one of them said, they said, I don't think Knox County is going to be able to function without us. And I kept waiting for the punchline. I thought that was, but they were being serious. And, and I've said many times, there's 100,000 other people that are more qualified to do this job than I am. But since I am in charge of the county, I think we need to look at that, and we need to just put aside the fiefdoms, the power struggle.
Well, you talked about that office before on the show, in fact, but what other things do you see consolidating?
Yeah, I talked to Mayor O'Hara about this. I see our tractors going down the interstate on the back of a trailer passing her tractors, the city's tractors. I mean, just things like parks. Of course, We don't have to have mass firings. We can look at consolidation of those. I looked at possibly an outside group maybe coming in and managing those and turning that into a more efficient service. We could do that. You just go down the line. Of course, the real hang-up is going to be law enforcement.
That's never going to consolidate.
No, but the state constitution provides that you have to have a sheriff. So in Nashville, what they did was they put their sheriff over their jails.
Which is the only thing constitutionally the sheriff is responsible for.
That is correct.
And it works in Nashville.
And it does work in Nashville, except for the fact that it has turned into another, as I call it, a fiefdom. And they have automobiles now. They have arrest powers. When I was first elected to legislature, I guess 20 years ago, you rarely saw any sheriff representation.
Thomas was sheriff in Davidson County.
That's a different times, and now you're seeing this. It's a growth. It's a larger item in their budget, and so you got to make a firm decision there. Another area that I'm concerned about is fire. I would think you would have to draw circles around the city and make these service areas where people could literally vote in what they wanted and have over a period of time that you would have fire protection.
Would you be in favor of consolidation of fire and ambulance services for Knox County and Knox City?
At this time, I would look at fire on the front end, absolutely, because I think that you could...
well, with first responders, how do you separate fire and ambulance?
Well, you wouldn't. You're exactly right. I mainly talk about fire when I talk about it because that's the most visual to people. Right. But you're correct. You're correct.
What will be the tipping point, as far as you're concerned, for some of those changes to move forward?
I think the public would have to just issue their disgust, really, because I think until they do that, I talk about when you get off the elevator to pay your property taxes, you go 100 feet to the right, and you pay your county property taxes. You go 100 feet to the left to pay your city property taxes. Different offices, they do the same function. There ought to be a way to do that. There was a study done several years ago, and they completed it, and it just fell on deaf ears because it said what we all said all along. We can do it efficiently, but we've got to do it. And democracy is the answer. If we want to elect everybody, let's elect everybody. But if we don't, let's not. And we need to get that out front and not try to play any games with the public.
We've got to take a quick break. More of our conversation with Knox County Mayor Tim Burchett right after this. Inside Tennessee with Knox County Mayor Tim Burchett. Mike Cohen.
Yeah, Mayor, let's go a little more into fire. Brad Anders, chairman of County Commission, just reelected chairman, has talked about appointing some sort of a panel that commission would be involved with, and I assume you would be involved with as well to study. And you're right, it would have to be a tax district that consisted of those parts of the county that are outside the city, might contract with the city for some of that fire protection. But would you be supportive of that process if it results in a referendum?
Yeah, I think I would. But the folks they're going to have to buy into it. A referendum doesn't scare me. Folks can be educated by both sides or pushed and pulled, whichever way.
Historically, county has never bought into any kind of consolidated services.
They have not. You're exactly right. But I think you're seeing now, honestly, I think you would see in the past, it passed in the city and didn't pass in the county. You might see a complete reversal of that right now.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this, because there's a lot of talk about consolidating departments, but every time we run down the hall to talk to the city mayor, she says you haven't talked to her. So what kind of discussions have you had with Madeline Rogero, and what are her thoughts? I
would say if you asked her today, she would say we have had discussions. We have had discussions about it, and we have a difference of opinion on some issues, but I would still like to get everybody together in a room and discuss that. I think it has to be done. It has to be done regardless. Madeline's term limited just like I am. And to be honest with you, she'll probably go work for President Hillary Clinton. Because the Republicans keep bumbling, they're going to elect her anyway.
But unlike you, she hasn't been reelected yet.
That's true. So that's true. That's true. That's true. That's true.
Tim, obviously in the news, particularly with some of the school board elections, and I've just got to stay away from the Hillary Clinton comment. There's just too much good stuff there. But
no, it's all right. I've said the Republicans keep bumbling at the national level, and if they keep that, we might as well just go on and coronate. If we keep bringing in the same old tired, they paid their dues kind of guys and gals, we're going to lose, and we might as well just hand it over to them.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Now Danila's just dying.
Well,
go ahead, Mike.
I know where Don's going, and I had thought, we're talking about city, we're talking about county. The other thing that you've started to show an interest in is schools.
Sure.
And I mean, it's no secret you and the superintendent don't get along, and so where is the disconnect between you and Jim McIntyre?
Well,
you know, why do we have it?
It's 62 cents out of every dollar goes to education. I think what you have to realize, superintendent, he is a staff person. He's no different than Michael Grider or Dean Rice or anybody else in my office.
It's pretty different. You don't have control over whether he has the job or
he's not supposed to. He's not supposed to have control of the school board, which he does. Now, you all might say, "Oh, I don't know."
Maybe he did. Might be a better question.
He does. He still does, and that's where my I've said that all along. You know, he works for the school board, yet he tells the school board what to do. He uses the sunshine laws to his advantage by bringing in a lawyer and executive, whatever they call it, whatever session, their name they call that. And you know good and well, guys, if that was county commission or if I was pulling that stunt, you all would be blasting me and there'd be editorial, and there should be. But instead they do that because, you know, it's sacred ground, let's not touch it. But I think, and two, when in this world did it ever become popular for either political party to beat up on school teachers? To me, that is just nonsense, and that seems to be what we're seeing out in the public. And you have school board members limiting the conversation when they have the open mic. What do they call it? It's
public forum.
Public forum. And you have a school board member saying, well, wait a minute, if you work for the school system, you need to go through your supervisor and discuss with them, and they need to okay what you say. If that was on county commission, I would run down to the mic and I would demand that person's apology to the public, because First Amendment is something that we should all hold sacred. But since it's the school system, they get oh, well, you know, it's the school system. They're allowed to do that, and that is wrong, Don. You're a liberal. You should be on board.
I like to think I'm pragmatic, progressive.
What would you like to see happen, Mayor?
Honestly, I would like to see the school board take their proper role and take control of the school system.
Do you think Jim McIntyre should be gone?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And why do you say that?
Because his style of leadership, I don't like talking to teachers who are afraid for their own jobs because of speaking out. I welcome that in county government. I don't like hearing from professionals that testify before school board about kids crying on Friday mornings. Yeah, I cried on Friday morning. I didn't want to go to school, but not because I was going to have to take some ludicrous test that just continuously testing. They're mining our kids for information. You know, our children should not be a decimal point on some big shot on Wall Street's portfolio. They should be, we should hold them very close and sacred, and we're not. I'm afraid it's out of control. I'm afraid we've let the foxes in the hen house is what's happening.
Can you talk about fiefdoms? Should the school board or should the school superintendent be elected or still appointed by the
I've
school
always
board?
said you should elect a school board.
How does that not create another fiefdom?
It's an elected system. If they don't like him, and now you have 9 school board members, so if you control 5, you control 62% of every dollar. If
he's elected in 1 year.
If he's elected school, well, and
you elect him, you got him for 4.
He's paid over $200,000 a year. He makes $1,000 a month. He gets $800 a month auto allowance. He gets $1,000 a month. He makes more than the Vice President of the United States, Don. It's out of control.
I don't disagree with some of your numbers and some of your analysis.
School board members too, you figure?
Term limits are at the ballot box. I've never been a big proponent of term limits. I know it's popular, but if people get mad enough, as they are right now, that's why you're seeing this shift in people getting involved. They're saying, hey, wait a minute, this is going on in our school system, let's address it.
How often do you meet with anybody from the schools, McIntyre or school board members?
I meet with somebody from the schools every week because it's usually a disgruntled teacher or parent every week. When they can't get in to see him, I get the call, and I get it weekly. And it's just more and more and more.
How about the superintendent?
What about him?
How often do you meet with him?
Little as possible, because we and I do not get along. I don't. You know.
Is there anything
we meet periodically? You know, about
because the last time on this broadcast, we talked about there was some reconciliation that it looked like happening in your relationship. That seems to have split again.
No, I just have a hard time with his style of leadership. I'll be honest with you. That's really. I tend to try to lead by example and get in there with the folks that are doing the work and find out what's going wrong. I don't try to micromanage. I don't try to tell my finance people. I tell them, here's what I'd like to see happen. Let's try to make it happen. I don't make every point. You know, when Don, you're the lawyer. You know, they have the situation over there with this lady. and I won't go into all the details. But it's
talking about the lady who's on paid administrative leave for more than 2 years.
2 years, and then he says it's HIPAA, but then he goes and discusses the details of it in public, and to me that just shows, I think, that there's a big disconnect with what's going on in the school system with the taxpayers, and that's why you're seeing the big turnout in these school board races, and people are starting to take interest.
We've got to take another quick break. We'll be back with more on Inside Tennessee right after this. We're back here on Inside Tennessee. You have something to say, Mayor?
Yeah, I would like to say, though, but I do not have a decision in that. It's ultimately up to the school board.
If the superintendent leaves or not. But it sounds like he's going to leave or he's going to stay, I should say, because his contract says he's due to stay not just for a little while, but several years. Yeah. So it seems to me that that's a relationship that you're going to have to forge and deal with.
I mean, Tim, there are some assistant DAs that I loathe having to sit down with, but I have to because it's for the good of
I deal with him when I have to, but it's becoming less and less frequent just because it's the same old stuff every time, and I'm tired of it. I really am tired of it.
Mayor, let me ask you this. The school board is deeply, deeply divided. At their last meeting, one new member couldn't be there, and there were 4 that are not really in favor of the superintendent, how he runs things, 4 that are, and then we'll have the 5th one there at the next school board meeting to pick a chair. But my question is this. Do you think the division on the school board is indicative of a deep division in the community? Do you think the parts of town that have elected school board members who are more supportive of McIntyre represent what their communities want, and that all of Knox County is that divided about the leadership of the schools?
No, I don't. I think you're going to see it's pretty well across the board. I think on school board races earlier on, I don't think folks were really in tune to what's going on. I think there's been some good reporting of some incidents that have gone on, and I think they're going to continue to be. Look, I think the more and more farther away you get from that, the more and more you're going to see a shift in the school board.
Well, Charles Lindsay's still living in town, Mayor.
The bottom line is the education of our kids, and we've seen some gains in that respect,
sure,
and others not quite what school leaders were hoping.
It's interesting you say that. You know, we put I have a degree in education. I have a background in education. I did my student teaching here in Knox. It was the old schools, and my mama taught, and Dad was the dean at the University of Tennessee. So I do have an interest in it. You know, we put, I believe, around $3 million in a reading program, and this is a perfect example. We were told that we were going to have this program implemented. Yet when we wanted to see the specifics of it after the money was put forth, we were told that there was portions of that in all the reading programs throughout the school system.
This was specifically targeting 3rd grade, if I remember.
Yeah, and we actually saw those numbers drop in the last year. I don't know. I'm sure the spinmeisters have been spinning, but I believe those numbers actually dropped from what I saw.
Did they use the money that they were for what they were supposed to use it for?
Well, the law pretty much states once we give them the money, they get to decide what to do.
This was a specific grant, though, that you put through.
You even talked about it in your budget speech.
Did they not use the money properly?
I don't know if they didn't use the money properly. I'm sure their lawyers have figured out a way to make it proper. But
they're not getting along with their lawyers right now, man.
Well,
did they use it to fund that reading program that you?
Well, I was told that it was by the superintendent that it was that portions of that program were implemented throughout the system, and I didn't really get a good firm answer on that.
You think you might pull the funding next year?
I think I might. If I see numbers go down, that's why I put that's how we did it that way. Because if we don't see numbers change, then we would.
And the explanation of that is by state law, you can't reduce what you spend on education.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Through a grant,
but no, I understand.
Yeah, that's why we did it through a grant, so that we could do it. But you know, I like straight answers. I'm a plain talker. I'm not like Don. I don't have.
Why do you keep coming back to the mayor?
Well, Don, you're sharp dressed. You're a good guy. I like you. I'm kind of. I can't even give the guy a compliment
with you, Mayor.
I can't even give the guy a compliment. But all truth is that I don't get straight answers from that bunch. And that's unfortunate.
In our remaining time, let's talk big picture. We have a lot of changes just in the facade of the city and county going on right now. Lots of development. What do you know about the South Knoxville development there and Baptist Hospital and the progression of that demolition and how that's going to change that area?
Well, I watch it every day. Of course, I was born at Baptist. I was hoping they'd leave one corner of it there for where I was born.
I'm sure they'll put up some sort of historical monument.
Yeah, I'm sure it went right in the lake. Now I watch them. They're tearing it down every day. But actually, that's a city project.
Yes.
But
it will have big influence on
the tax dollars, the revenue. I'm looking forward to having that area developed. I think it's been an eyesore, and it kind of went back and forth, back and forth. We met with several different developers and folks about it, and I think Mayor O'Hara and her staff are doing an excellent job about it.
On the job front, what can you say Knox County prospects are in the coming years?
Actually, I've got a list in my pocket. I can't pull it out because that'd be unprofessional, but I'll give one example. I think Fresenius, I looked at their stock earlier in the week, and it's actually, since they've decided to come to Knoxville, it's gone up about 25%. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but they several $100 million investment. The jobs are incredible. I think around 600 employees. And the funny thing about that was, this goes back to the fiefdoms. The state of Tennessee was involved technically in that, but it's really Knoxville Chamber, and I'm giving them full credit. They did a great job of recruiting and bringing those folks in. And when the state of Tennessee, though, has an involvement, they have to handle the press of it. And the local folks never heard anything about it. They don't know anything about Fresenius. And it's a great, great company. They make dialysis equipment and things like that. And if you know anything about health care, that's where it's going.
Tim, 15 seconds. This is the last time you've been elected mayor. What's your next office you're running for?
I don't know, Don.
I'm going to give you 15 seconds.
I don't play golf, so that limits me.
What is your biggest goal that is measurable over the next 4 years?
I think reduction in government and keeping services the same. And when people call Knox County, they're going to get somebody answering the phone. If they call 215-2005, ask for Tim, they're going to get him.
Mayor Burchett, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the work you're doing on the veterans, and the Medal of Honor was a great success.
It's been terrific to have them in town. Thank you for that, and we'll be back with more right after this. Back to Inside Tennessee. Our conversation with the mayor really focused on education largely, but we covered a range of topics. What do you make of his leadership, Don, in the next 4 years?
Well, I think whether you're Democrat or Republican, I think you can say that Tim has sort of maintained the course. He's done exactly what he said he would do. He's kept taxes low. He's kept services adequate. But again, what's interesting is the growing schism between he and Dr. Jim McIntyre. And Tim's here for 4 years. I don't know that I could say the same thing about Dr. McIntyre.
Mike?
It's rough. I mean, you know, I agree with Don that Mayor Burchett has done exactly what he said he would do as mayor. This was a whole new level of publicly saying, I don't like the guy, I don't like his style of leadership, and I think there needs to be a change. And given the mayor's popularity, 85% of the vote the first time he ran, unopposed the second time he ran, the bully pulpit that he has to bring the heat to the school board about this is going to be significant.
We'll leave the last word to you, Mike.
I'd rather just address, you know, you look at Tim Burchett, and we joke about him being cheap. I guess he is a little frugal with the money. They've got about $50 million in the reserve tank now, and I think at one point when he started they had 30. So he's not going to spend it. I'd like to be the next mayor that comes around with that money, because you can build and buy all sorts of things with it.
You can run.
Noah for mayor.
No. Metaphorically speaking.
Thanks for watching Inside Tennessee.